and welcome to the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment, continuing my 2016 NFL season recaps. And today we are talking about the San Francisco 49ers, a team that I correctly predicted before the season. I said this team would go 2-14. They did not shock me in the least. We're going to recap their 2016 season, and then we will look ahead to 2017 and see what they can do there. A lot of information can be found down in the description box below for your guys' entertainment and information, whatever knowledge. So with that said, let's talk about this disaster that was the 49ers. And I knew this team. I knew what was going to happen. I just looked at the talent, man. It was just terrible talent. They reminded me of my team, the Tennessee Titans, back in 2014. Just no talent, no quarterback, and issues everywhere. But I did know this also. I had them winning week 1 against the Rams, and they won better than I thought they would. But still, I knew they were going to win this game. And to me, that's the first key game from this year. Against the Los Angeles Rams, they beat them 28-0. The Rams were starting Case Keenum at this point, and the 49ers, for some reason, when they're at home week 1, they can win. Right? They did it this year, and then last year they did it against the Minnesota Vikings. That's their move, and that's the first key game from this season to me. From there, though, it was hard to find some key games because when you're not really in anything in any games or just any pressure or anything like that, it's hard to find a key game. But I went with week 4 against the Dallas Cowboys. This was a game when the 49ers were up early, right? And this was a chance to me to take advantage of the Cowboys early in the season, and they failed to do so. They let the Cowboys to come back, and that started to set the tone for this horrible season for the 49ers. And then, though, week 16 against the St. Louis Rams, you saw this 49er team, again, go out there and get a win. So against the Rams, hey, this 49ers team knows how to play, but the problem is against everyone else, not so much. I remember the terrible game where they went to Chicago and lost 26-6. Just embarrassing, losing to a terrible team like Chicago like that. But it's okay, right? Now, with that in mind, let's talk about some individual performances from this 49ers season. Let's start at quarterback. Colin Kaepernick ended up starting the majority of the year, I think. At least the more important part of the year, the end of the year. And he did all right, but you get the feeling that he's gone and he knows it. Very impressed by Carlos Hyde this year, right? He stayed healthy for most of the year and almost eclipsed 1,000 yards. So good for him. Dwan Harris, though, not a great backup. So if you can, I would improve upon your backup running back position. And also Sean Drone, apparently that's how it's pronounced, but he's not very good either. So I would improve upon that because Carlos Hyde can get injured from time to time, as you know so well. We look at the wide receivers, they're terrible. They're just absolute trash. Jeremy Kerley, look, this guy, for any team that throws the ball well, like Green Bay or New Orleans, this guy may not make the team, right? But for the 49ers, he's their number 1 wide receiver. He didn't play that bad, actually, right? I like that he caught over 50% of his targets, and he eclipsed 600 yards. So perhaps, maybe he could be a 3rd wide receiver for you, and it wouldn't be too bad. But as a number 1, yeah, that's pretty bad. And, oh my God, Torrey Smith, just a terrible year. I know he got injured, but man, that guy was terrible. It wasn't even catching 50% of his targets, barely eclipsed catching 40% of his targets. Just a terrible year for Torrey Smith. Only 200 receiving yards, just awful. The receiving core, just terrible. Offensive line ended up being pretty freaking terrible. You invested in Joshua Garnett with your second first round pick. He really wasn't very good. Joe Staley's great, and we know that, but outside of him, you're talking about a lot of shuffling, people getting injured, Anthony Brown coming back, retiring again, Zane Beadle starting in there. Torrey Smith had a funny quote after week 17. He said, we had a guy starting at center or something, and I didn't know who he was. That's just hilarious, but it's true, right? A lot of shuffling on this offensive line. Tight end. Impressed with some of the play by some of these tight ends. Vance McDonald had an okay year when healthy. Garrett Selleck, same thing. If you don't improve upon your tight ends this offseason, it won't be a problem for me. They're not great, right? But they're not bad either. Let's look at the defense. Actually, real quick before we look at the defense. So the offense MVP, Joe Staley. He's the best player to me, so he wins the offense MVP award. So now let's look at the defense. Let's start with the defensive line. What a great rookie season from Deforest Buckner, right? This This is the guy that is giving me hope for this franchise and this team as a whole. What a great season. 6 sacks, a couple of forced fumbles, like 77 tackles. Great year for a 3-4 defensive end. And if Arik Armstead ever comes back and plays well, you like the combination of Buckner and Armstead. And hey, if you take Jonathan Allen in the draft, you'll love that combination even better. The rest of the defensive line, not very good. You're talking about Glenn Dorsey getting injured early, Ronald Blair just being bad. Look at the linebackers now, because the defensive line, there's nothing to talk about. We look at the linebackers. Ahmad Brooks is okay, but just not very good. Michael Wilhoite, upcoming free agent, let him go. He's not very good either. Gerald Hodges, he's actually pretty good. And I think Hodges and Navarro Bowman, if Bowman comes back healthy and everything like that, they could be a good inside linebacker duo. Aaron Lynch, disappointed. I thought his season before this one was better. So the linebackers are pretty disastrous right now. Unfortunately, though, you may not be able to select Myles Garrett to help fix it. We look at the secondary. Okay, so Tremaine Brock had a good year to me. He was the only good part of the secondary. Okay, outside of him, I guess you were okay with the performance of Mushara Robinson, your rookie cornerback out of LSU. He played all right, but man, I was unimpressed with a lot of these cornerbacks. But they did go through a lot of injuries. Jimmy Ward, Eric Reed, missing a large part of the season. Jaquiski Tart played okay. Antoine Buffet getting old, but he actually played all right. But man, they just gave up too many points to secondary, and they had good weeks, but they had terrible weeks as well, just disastrous weeks. Maybe there were just miscommunications or whatever, instead of just lack of talent, because there is some talent here. We shall see. One thing on Mushara Robinson, though, this is a guy that I really did not like the draft pick because he's just so skinny. He's like 6'1", 174 pounds, and he's just terrible against the run. I mean, you wonder why you give up so many big plays against the run. I saw this guy so many times missing tackles, not being able to bring down these tough running backs. Bulk this guy up, please. He's so skinny, so terrible against the run. In coverage, is actually all right. So, with that in mind, let's look at the draft class for this team once again. So, I gave this draft class a B+ at the time of the draft. And I think that is proving to be a little too high. In fact, possibly very high. I love the Deforest Buckner pick. I gave it an A. It's still an A. We look at the Joshua Garnett pick. I gave it a C. I'd say it's still a C, but it could be lower. I'll be nice and keep it at a C. Will Redmond. Okay, so your 3rd round pick, cornerback out of Mississippi State. Gave it an A-, but the guy didn't play. So, I keep it there because I still think he's a pretty damn good player. But, man, it sucks when these guys don't play. Mushara Robinson, good in coverage, but just terrible against the run. As a cornerback, though, you can make the argument that it doesn't matter. So fine. But, man, the guy wasn't very good against the run at all. So I think it was a little high. I really like what you guys did late, drafting a John Theus, a Fawn Cooper, a Jeff Driscoll, who I thought may end up being the starting quarterback for this team, but they ended up letting him go. Aaron Burbridge, but none of these guys showed up, man. So I gave it a B+ at the time, but now it's just looking like maybe a C or C+ draft, maybe a B- draft if you're being very conservative. And then maybe if Will Redmond can come back and be a great starting corner, it'll be upgraded. But I think I was just too generous when it came to this draft class, and that's why Trent Baalke right now is sitting at home watching this video. So with that in mind, there goes the 2016 NFL season. It's there, it's gone. Chip Kelly's gone, Trent Baalke's gone. You guys are going to look for head coaching candidates, look for general manager candidates. I made a separate video about that, so go watch that. And who knows, maybe by the time you're watching this video, they've already hired new guys. So let's go ahead and talk about the upcoming 2017 draft and free agency period. So let's start with free agency. You have $87 million in cap room. It's time to spend some money and bring some veteran free agents in here that can help save this franchise. Your key free agents that you may need to re-sign. Jeremy Kerley, again, I'm not sure he makes the Green Bay Packers or he makes the New England Patriots. Actually, he probably makes the Patriots, but makes the New Orleans Saints. I'm not sure if he makes those teams, makes the roster. But for your team, he's actually pretty essential. So maybe re-sign him for about $2 or maybe $3 million per year max. Michael Wilhoite, let him go. I would just definitely let him go. He's not very good at all. Let Bowman and Gerald Hodges combine there and do a good job. I think that's the move moving forward. We look at Quinton Patton. I like Quinton Patton. You know, this is a guy that went to my high school, Laverne High School, and I know him a little bit growing up. Not really, but I remember him, watching him play, and he's pretty good at the high school level at least. And I've been impressed with his play in the NFL, and I think he can be a decent number 4 wide receiver. So I'd keep him. It's going to have to be for $2 million per year. Hopefully he's willing to agree to that. If he is, good. Okay, we look at Gerald Hodges, re-sign him. I like him inside. Pair him with Navarro Bowman moving forward. Phil Dawson, your kicker. He hasn't been as great as he was, let's say, 2 or 3 years ago, but I still think he's pretty good. So re-sign Phil Dawson, Blaine Gabbert. You know, right now I would say to let him go, but at the same time, if you guys let go of Kaepernick, let go of Gabbert, you have no one there. I mean, that's just a situation. That's a problem right there. And let's say you draft a quarterback high in the second round, or maybe even in the first round. You need to have a veteran there to start just in case the other guy isn't ready yet. So I might re-sign Gabbert to a lower deal, unless if you're really confident in your ability to go attract a free agent quarterback. I may re-sign him because you're going to need a veteran there. Even if you believe that Mitch Trubisky is our guy, or Deshaun Watson is our guy, or Brad Kaya is our guy, you're going to need a veteran quarterback there to start just in case week 1. So I might look to re-sign him. Glenn Dorsey at nose tackle, couldn't stay healthy and wasn't very good. Let him go. So let's look at your team needs. Quarterback, definitely. Kaepernick and Gabbert may be gone. Quarterback has been a need for this team now for 2 years. Gotta fix it. Nose tackle, Glenn Dorsey wasn't good. You miss Ian Williams. Go ahead and get a nose tackle again. Right tackle, you miss... What's his name? Anthony Davis, actually. I think I said Anthony Brown earlier. Anthony Davis, your right tackle that retires and comes back and retires and comes back and retires and comes back. Replace this guy for good. And Fawn Cooper and John Theus, they weren't great rookies. So go ahead and look to upgrade your right tackle position. Wide receiver, Torrey Smith stinks. And then Jeremy Kerley just can't be your best wide receiver, man. You got to upgrade. You got to do it this year. Edge rusher, Aaron Lynch, and also Ahmad Brooks. I mean, they're not number 1 pass rushers in this league. You got to find a number 1 pass rusher, man. So many needs for this football team. Got to find a number 1 pass rusher. We look at inside linebacker potentially. If you let go of Gerald Hodges, you'll need to replace him with somebody. Michael Wilhoite is not that guy. So this could be a need. It could not. We look at your potential free agent acquisitions. Let's start with the quarterbacks. Tyrod Taylor, who the Buffalo Bills will most likely let go. We look at Jimmy Garoppolo, whom you could trade for. I would not trade the number 2 overall pick for him. I would just sit there and take Jonathan Allen, but if you want to, go ahead. We look at Jay Cutler. I know that scares the hell out of you, but he could be a nice veteran quarterback while you develop a Deshaun Watson, while you develop a Brad Kaya, while you develop a Chad Kelly, okay? So I like this Jay Cutler fit. I really do. You look at Nick Foles, again, a veteran free agent who you can start while you groom a young quarterback. You look at nose tackles, Brandon Williams of the Baltimore Ravens, Bennie Logan of the Philadelphia Eagles. You look at right tackles, Ricky Wagner of the Baltimore Ravens, Riley Reiff of the Detroit Lions, edge rushers, DeMarcus Ware of the Denver Broncos, Melvin Ingram of the San Diego Chargers, wide receivers, Alshon Jeffrey of the Chicago Bears, Terrell Pryor of the Cleveland Browns, Willie Snead of the New Orleans Saints, Kendall Wright of the Tennessee Titans, and an inside linebacker possibility, Kiko Alonso. Now, a lot of these guys may not want to be San Francisco 49ers, but I think with a new head coach and a new GM, it could be possible. And by the way, I'm making this video on January 3rd. If a lot of these guys re-sign by the time you're watching this in April, May, June, whatever, obviously this does not relate anymore. So, with that said, let's move on to the draft. You have 11 draft picks, including compensatory picks, I think, because there's one draft pick in there that could be traded or not. It was like a conditional pick, but it should be 11 draft picks. Okay, that's a lot of draft picks. We can fix this roster. Potential draft picks. We're just going to look at the first 2 rounds for now. Your first round pick, Myles Garrett. Unfortunately, though, probably won't be available. The Cleveland Browns will probably take him, but unless, maybe they fall in love with the quarterback, this would be a great fit. Just take Myles Garrett. He will fix a lot of your defensive issues, getting after the passer, Myles Garrett. But Jonathan Allen, not a bad compensation price. And look, I know we like Arik Armstead. He's lengthy. He's a good guy. And he had an okay rookie season. In fact, a pretty good one. But his sophomore season was disappointing. He got injured, and he really didn't play very well. I like Jonathan Allen a lot. I think he's going to be better than Arik Armstead ever was or ever could dream to be. And I think on third downs, on nickel and dime packages, even on second downs, there is a lineup where you can have Arik Armstead, Deforest, Buckner, and Jonathan Allen all on your defensive line rushing the passer. I don't think they have to be either Arik Armstead or Jonathan Allen. I think they can both coexist on a nickel and dime package on second or third down passing downs. I think you can get away with that, right? Because Jonathan Allen is a guy like Michael Bennett that can play at defensive end in a 4-3. So in your nickel and dime packages, put Jonathan Allen on the outside, Arik Armstead and DeForest Buckner on the inside. Find another edge rusher probably, and get after that quarterback, right? I think you can do it. We look at Leonard Fournette, possibly, but I doubt it. Carlos Hyde did not eclipse 1,000 yards this season, but he did eclipse like 4.3 yards per carry, and he's a good running back, so I doubt it, but it's possible. Let me include it. Mitch Trubisky or Deshaun Kaiser. If you fall in love with one of these quarterbacks, it is certainly possible that you take one here. I probably wouldn't. I like Allen, so I personally wouldn't, but we'll see what happens. Reuben Foster. So if you decide we don't want Jonathan Allen because we really love Arik Armstead, Reuben Foster is now a very big possibility because he feels that need. If you let go of Gerald Hodges, you put him next to Navarro Bowman, you let him learn after Navarro Bowman, assuming Bowman doesn't retire or anything like that, and then you have a nice inside linebacker duo, man, because Bowman, when he was healthy this season, he was playing really well, man. So now you like this combination of Foster and Bowman potentially. Let's look at your second round pick now. And so are wide receivers, Dede Westbrook and Juju Smith-Schuster. A lot of you Californians know plenty about Juju Smith-Schuster. Did not have much production this year at USC, but had a great bowl game. And he's a guy that the 49ers can see a lot of upside in. I really like Juju Smith to go at the top of the second round. Dede Westbrook, a Heisman candidate, a guy that won't go first round, but second round definitely possible. And he could be a nice fit for this 49er squad. Let's move on and look at some of the quarterbacks again. Deshaun Kaiser, possible here. Brad Kaya as well. Look at some defensive linemen. Let's start with Vita Vea, the nose tackle out of, I want to say, BYU. He's a big nose tackle that can definitely eat up some of these run holes that were just all over this San Francisco defense this year. You look at some pass rushers in DeMarcus Walker and Solomon Thomas, possibly Takaris McKinley if he falls to the second round, and then also an offensive tackle in Garrett Bowles. Offensive tackle will be tough to fill through the draft. There's not a great offensive tackle draft. You're looking at Cam Robinson not being in your range, Ryan Ramczyk not being in your range, and then at the top of the second round, Garrett Bowles appears to be the only one going here, right? So maybe some rise later on in the process, certainly possible, but if you want to fill the offensive tackle, you're going to need to go through free agency and sign one of those guys that I listed earlier, or another guy that becomes available and could be a good fit for this franchise. So moving forward, for this San Francisco 49ers team, right now, find a head coach, okay, find a GM, possibly the GM first, then the head coach. And is there hope for optimism here? Of course, right? I do like players. I like Eric Reed. I like Jimmy Ward. I like DeForest Buckner. But the offense right now, it's pretty freaking disastrous, dog. Carlos Hyde and Joe Staley being the only hopes there. The offensive line needs help interior and outs to the right. Wide receivers just probably need to just be rebuilt from the ground up. And the quarterback position is a position of need. So, they're going to make some moves, good. But if you're expecting this 49er team to win more than 6 games next year, I think you're reaching, just to say the least. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the San Francisco 49ers 2016 NFL season and my thoughts on their upcoming offseason. What are yours? Comment down below. I want to know. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, to subscribe. And until the next time, this has been the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment. And I'm out. Peace.